we wanted to talk about a little bit from the opening keynote around the state of RevOps. We're going to talk about the past, present, and future, and I think it's an ideal time to talk about it because, like I said, we kicked off kind of the journey to RevOps in 2019, and RevOps just continues to evolve, right? I think one of the terms that when we were prepping for this, someone said, we do not think history will repeat itself. RevOps is going forward. It's not going to go backwards to what we are talking about it. And boy, has a lot changed. We've had COVID, an economic downturn, and a banking crisis. And to help me with that, we wanted to bring on 3 industry experts to talk about those different phases and set those contexts, and then hopefully bring us some key takeaways around where we think things are going next and around all the various trends. And so with that, I wanted to first bring on stage Jeff Serlin, who I first got to know when we were working together at Marketo. His title, and this is a great title, Chief RevOps Officer. That's a new title, so that kind of emphasizes it. So Jeff, please come on stage and we'll talk a little bit about So in my tee-up, Jeff, I talked a little bit about kind of the evolution of RevOps and what's changed over the last kind of 20 or 30 years. Yeah. So I'm hoping that you could talk a little bit about what you've seen changed and what are kind of the key themes.
Yeah, first of all, I haven't been doing it for 30 years.
Fair enough.
I'm not that old yet. Look, when I first started doing this, there was no RevOps, there was no sales ops, and I'll get to this a little bit later, but I was just, why don't we have a pipeline? So somebody should do this. But I don't think there was a big bang moment of which RevOps itself was born. I think it was an evolution. And thinking about that, I think there's 3 things that I think led to this. The first is in the late 2000s, when I was kind of doing sales ops in early 2010s, a lot of sales leaders from larger companies, PeopleSoft, Oracle, SAP, started coming to startups as they were getting to 50 million, wanting to cross 100 million, and then 200 and half a billion, and move up and start selling to enterprise. And operations was done at these big companies. They had someone that helped them with their weekly forecast call and their reporting package. They had someone they worked with on comp plans and planning. So when they came to these companies, they wanted that person or that skill set. So they created roles, calling them sales ops, and started hiring people. And I think that was one of the first times. That role, by definition, for the second thing I think that went on was it had to work with others. You had to work with marketing on handoffs. You had to work with finance and legal on process and deal desk, et cetera. So other people at those companies and other leaders started to see the value in what operations can bring. And in fact, some of them started hiring their own ops folks after that. And then I think the third thing was a whole bunch of sales managers, sales reps that became leaders 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 years later, understood the value of operations. And when they got into those roles, they started creating these larger teams, started hiring sales ops a little bit earlier, and started thinking about revenue more of a supply chain and started thinking about consolidating it. So it was really creating advocates and people that understand the value of it, that as they moved up and went to other companies, started bringing that knowledge with them, was how I think RevOps started to get some traction in the mid-2010s.
And for many folks who are in those roles or early in the career and mid-career, talk to me a little bit about the evolution of your personal career along that journey.
Yeah, I think like any role, it's important to find a mentor, someone you can learn with. The first time I had an official sales operations role, I was introduced to one of those leaders that actually came from PeopleSoft by some common friends and colleagues who was looking for someone to do this. I went and I worked with him and for him. I didn't have anybody to go learn from, though. There wasn't a community. There was no place to go look and get some information of how to do certain things. There weren't a lot of colleagues and peers that were doing this, so I had to figure out, and so did others at that time, a lot of it on our own, which was very fun, and it was really, really good because you had to learn a little bit of everything, which I think has certainly helped me. But I was a team of one. I was with him attached at the hip. He brought me into every important decision, everything I could join except the confidential stuff. So I was seen as a chief of staff, a strategic partner to him, and he really helped position me as that person that was, this is pre-RevOps, but when things would get done, when we'd want to rethink a strategy or analyze something or get some tactics executed, that I was the person to go to first to help figure this out, as well as work with our partners in the go-to-market organization. After that, he became a CEO. We were acquired by Oracle, and I was the first person he brought from his network. He made me a direct report to him. And anyone in the company, in go-to-market that wanted to hire an ops person, they had to work on my team. And he wanted that because he wanted to, and he comes from the sales world, so he kind of gets go-to-market. But he wanted to be able to execute his vision of what the go-to-market strategy should be, and to make sure the tactics were done, and for me not to necessarily be influenced by marketing or sales more than marketing. And he allowed me to build a little bit of a team. And to me, that was the start, and RevOps wasn't the term used, but of having a broader span of maybe not direct authority, but responsibility and involvement, but also reporting to the CEO. I know there's some discussions of where RevOps should report. I do think it's the CEO, hence the title that I gave myself at my current company. But that was the start of it for me, of really seeing the value of not just thinking myopically about sales, seeing it as a supply chain, and everything from the data layer up to the systems to the strategies to the people working together need to be just totally integrated and of one mind.
Very cool. And then talk to me a little bit. So, I mean, I think we put this slide up there. This is where sales ops started with spreadsheets,
Yes.
right? And we've gone from that to this. So tell me a little bit about the evolution of technology and how it played a role.
Yeah, I'm getting a migraine just looking at that. Technology is great. It's an awesome enabler to get things done. If you're buying technology and you don't know what problem you're trying to solve, you shouldn't be buying anything. So there's a ton of great things out there that I've used throughout the years, and I don't think that myself or people that do what we do could be as successful or deliver as much value to the company if we don't use technology. But be very deliberate and thoughtful on what problem you're solving, what you want to solve next, what you want to solve next quarter, what you might want to solve next year, and have a plan of how you're implementing it. And most importantly, have a plan of how it's going to be adopted. Buying something that can give you a value gives you none if folks aren't using it. So it's really been great of, I think, accelerating the speed of which we can deliver value to the business, but also to the degree of value, because it gives us the insights or the automation, freeing us up to do more strategic things that we can typically do.
Got it. Makes sense. And maybe also on the go-to-market side, what have been the process changes that you've seen over that time frame?
I think the biggest single one, and I'll start more at a macro level, is when I went to Marketo, sales and marketing planned together. We had a single spreadsheet, and our models were all in there. It wasn't different spreadsheets that we couldn't interpret. And Dave Kane, who some of you might know, him and I would spend hours in a conference room, and we would integrate this whole thing. And we would talk through, if we felt that we wanted to accelerate outbound and enterprise, he would, reduce a little bit of his spend in there. Or if we wanted to get more spend in certain programs that they were coming up with, we might make the manager ratio 7-to-1 instead of 6-to-1. So I think the change in process was started by the change in sort of alignment and folks working together to think of it as a single plan. And we were both accountable to the same thing. In fact, his number was the same exact number that mine was in terms of what our variable compensation was. And I think that spawned common data models, that spawned common processes, that spawned better handoffs, that spawned leadership now talking about go-to-market as opposed to sales and or marketing, and drove a whole bunch of cool things that you can do at the process and workflow layer to, again, just accelerate your growth, do it efficiently, and deliver value to the business.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks.